Good morning. I'm so pleased to be addressing you from, of all places, Hong Kong Polytechnic University, where I'm attending a board meeting. But I thought it was so important to be with you via modern technology to talk about making a profitable commercial business with Earth observation. Interestingly, Hong Kong Polytechnic University is also very into Earth observation and also into Mars, and they will be putting a camera, one of the first cameras to be adapted to the Mars environment. But let us talk now about space and about satellites and about Earth observation and most importantly, about business and sales. Everybody talks about new space, but you know, I didn't know what new space was. So I asked a friend of mine 3 years ago, I said, what's new space? She said, Candace, you know, it is commercially oriented, privately financed space and satellites and launchers. And I said, but you know, I've been doing that all of my life, and I was born into a family that was also doing it. In 1970, my father, General Johnny Johnson, left the United States Air Force and started the first private domestic satellite, Westar. And it saw the day in 1974. It was the first private geospatial satellite system. In 1973, he had also started American Satellite, which was the first VSAT company. So, you know, throughout already in the 1970s, here we were with private new space. And already in 1984, when the Westar satellite, which had been launched, but it was launched into a bad satellite, a bad orbit, friends of mine, Del Smith, got and hired the space shuttle to go into space and to get the Westar satellite and to bring it down to Earth for an insurance company who then later sold it to AsiaSat. So that is new space. With my own experience starting in new space, I was very fortunate to, to do the Astra satellite. And we first started it in 1983. Yes, in 1983, when there were no private satellites, there were no private satellite dishes, there were two private telcos, there were two private broadcasting companies. And yet, here we were, we had a vision and we had a need to bring people together and to give them freedom of choice in their television viewing. And of course, you all know the story. Astra SES went on to become the world's largest satellite system. I'm very proud to have also architected SES Global. And already from the beginning, we were also the first commercial satellite system to ever be launched by Ariane. And in 1995, we did the first private launcher between the Russian Khrushchev and Lockheed Martin. We created ILS, and so we did the first private launching system in 1995. So you can understand, for me, when people talk about new space, it is not really new space. And then also, in terms of financing, we had an angel investor. In 1983 for Astra, nobody was going to finance a private satellite except for an angel, somebody who had his own money and could invest in it. Very similar to what is happening today with people like Elon Musk and Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos. They are putting their own money into creating satellite systems. Well, this gentleman, Count Roland de Kergolay, did the same thing when he created and when he put in our first $1 million into SES Astra. And then let us talk about, in 1990 when the wall fell down, here again, I said, whoa, satellites, we can use satellites to bring Europe together. And so for the businesses, and so I created Teleport Europe. Here again, totally financed by private companies, by RWE, by E.ON, by MAN Hush. And so we were bringing private data communication networks to businesses who wanted to go and have Europe not half of Europe, but all of Europe as their clients. In 1994, I did the world's first internet-based online service. And here again, I created Europe Online, and I put it onto satellite so that we could have broadband satellites. And, you know, I showed one of the pictures in my opening from the launch when we were in Kourou. And you could see that unfortunately, I was the only woman. Well, you know what? New Space is also about women being in space, and I'm very proud to say that one of the groups that I have founded, Oceania Women's Network Satellite, that together we have created and are one of the biggest and largest investors and first investors in Pacific, which is bringing high throughput internet to all of the islands in the Pacific. And because of climate change, you know, which is we are now doing with Earth observation, which we are experiencing, and this is also, of course, helping us to then let the islands know when they need to go, because unfortunately climate change is affecting those islands tremendously. So what do all of these companies that I have just mentioned, who were all started in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, before the word New Space was ever coined, what do they all have in common? One, they all have private investors. Two, people talk about the oldest profession in the world. It's not what you think it is. It's sales. They all did sales. Marketing. We said that we were going to do something, and we did it, and we told everybody we did it. We had products. We didn't just say, oh, we're going to do a new technology. People didn't care about that. On the contrary, if we said satellites, they got a little bit scared. But we had products. We said, we will be bringing you freedom of choice. We will be bringing you new television channels. We will be bringing you internet. IP protocol. We will be bringing you videos that you can watch. This is what we did. And we always had, because since we had private investors, we had to have commercial offers. We had to know how much it cost us, how much we could offer it for, what were our overheads, what were our margins. We had to think of everything. It had to be commercial from the beginning. And we also had pioneering clients. Whenever you are doing something new, you need to have pioneering clients. You need to have somebody, and usually, by the way, it is the president of the company who says, okay, I'm willing to do this new technology that will help me, my company, have a competitive edge. When I started Teleport Europe in 1990, one of my pioneering clients was Renault. They wanted to sell cars into Eastern Europe. They had a fantastic data network already in place, and all we needed to do was to put satellite connectivity onto that data network and onto their desire to sell cars in Eastern Europe, and we made it possible. With Astra, the pioneering client was Rupert Murdoch. He bought 11 of our transponders out of 16 in 1988, right before we launched the satellite. When we launched the satellite, we were in the black. I say these things because, you know, people think that now with Earth observation that, you know, it's going to be difficult. No, on the contrary, the world has never, ever, ever needed so much connectivity, so much interactivity, and so much interconnectivity. And the reason for that is basically because the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things is going to make Earth observation be a commercial product. And why is that? Because up until the Internet of Things, we were connecting computers to humans. But now with sensor technology, we are connecting computers with computers and with sensors and with everything. And so as a result, we are getting huge amounts of data. So everybody talks about big data. Well, you know what? Earth observation is about big data. And what we are doing is we are using artificial intelligence to now take that big data from Earth observation and to make it into Earth intelligence, okay? And so we are not selling Earth observation anymore. We are not selling satellite technology. No, we are selling insights. We are selling for agriculture. We are saying, oh, do you want to know exactly what the soil looks like? For the oceans, do we want to say, we're not selling satellites, we are selling, oh, do you want to know what your ocean, what the health of your oceans are? And we can do this today because we are combining satellite technology with sensors, with computers, with artificial intelligence. So, you know, for up until now, and I do think this is true with Earth observation, it has been driven by technology. And quite frankly, this is a little bit wrong. And it's also been, you know, driven by governments and by subsidies. You know, as you can tell, I'm a free marketeer, so I'm not too much into subsidies. I believe in market-oriented products, market-oriented services. And so from the beginning, I tell all of the Earth observation companies that I mentor, I say, okay, what is your USP? What is your unique sales proposition? What need are you filling? And then create that product, and then have a price on it, and then go to the person who is the decision maker. You know, it's very, very difficult to sell something to somebody who isn't a decision maker. Usually the decision maker is at the top, so you have to go to the top. And you also have to make certain that the people you are selling to, that they have money to buy. You know, a lot of people don't remember this. They have to you cannot sell something, you cannot get money unless you have somebody who has money and who wants to have your product. So you know, now is the time for all of us, and particularly for all of the companies and the young companies who have been spending 5 and 10 years developing technology and developing products. The time is over now for development. The time now is for sales. And there you just have to apply the rules of sales. You put together a product, you identify a need, you dress it up nicely, you make it easy for people to buy the product. I was recently doing a Skype mentoring session with somebody, and I said, okay, let me look at your website. Well, I looked at his website. He didn't even have a contact, who to contact if you wanted to buy it. He did not have a price. He told me, well, I don't want other people to know my prices. I said, well, that's fine, but nobody will know your prices, so you have to have a price. So please put the price on the website. You need to tell the people exactly what you are offering and what you need to connect to be able to buy your service or to be able to buy your product. If you do not have these things, you will not be able to have a commercial success. So, you know, another thing, make certain that you have a level playing field. Sometimes people put hidden barriers, and the barriers can be interfaces, they can be standards, and you have to make certain that you, when you are doing your sales, that you have the same level playing field. And another thing, don't think that your competitors are other satellite-based Earth observation. No, your competitors will very often be radar, they will be land-based systems. And you have to make certain that you are able to compete with those people and to add value. People talk about value-added service providers. Well, that is really what you need to do. And another thing that I would like to suggest to all of you who, are doing applications, think about also having your own infrastructure if it makes sense. Or if not, you can rent an infrastructure. I'm looking at companies like Spire, who just say, hey, I'm launching my satellites. You want to put a payload on it? Please put a payload on my satellite, and you're off in business. So, or Planet now, they are doing the same thing. They have developed not only a great Planet space network infrastructure, but they've also developed a ground infrastructure. So and more people, young people, are saying, I'll just send up a CubeSat, I'll do my own launcher. And we need to have all of those things. This is probably the first time in the world, or in time actually, where really it doesn't matter if there's competition, because we need so much connectivity that if you have a good product, if you have a good service, if you have a price that you can put on it, if you have covered your margins and your overhead and have something that you can also be profitable with, you will win. So I'd like to close my speech by also saying that maybe 3 points. One, people talk about prototypes and that you need to have a prototype. Well, you know what? It doesn't cost money to get a prototype done. You can usually ask existing infrastructure providers, existing computer providers, existing server providers to help you do a prototype. So whenever somebody tells me I need money to do a prototype, I say this person is not inventive. Second, you need to think big, okay? So, it's just as easy to go to the corner store and sell something as it is to go to a big company and sell something, believe me. And you always have to talk to the owner or to the president, whether it's the corner store or whether it's the big company. So please do that. And then try to do transformational deals. A deal that will immediately get you enough money to survive for 3 years. I always tell everybody a deal has to be for 3 years, and try to get the money up front, 40%, then 20% on delivery, 20% for the next delivery, and 20% at the end. And ally yourself with what I call SMEs, not small companies, no, subject matter experts. So if you're working with it, if you want to do an agricultural product, then go and find somebody who's doing pesticides, who needs you. If you're working with an energy company, then go to the biggest polluters because you can help them. If you are doing something with ocean observation, then go to the fish companies, etc. So you need to ally yourself with people who can really help you. And then at the end, when I was 24 years old, I had this idea for the Steinway Hour. And I crashed a party where Mr. Steinway was. Remember, I always go to the top. And I told Mr. Steinway, I said, I had this great idea for the Steinway Hour. And he didn't know that I had crashed the party. So he was very nice to me. And he said, okay, well, send me your idea. So I put my idea down on 2 pieces of paper and I sent it to him. Just like I did, by the way, in 1983 when I started Astra, put the 2 pages down and sent it to the Prime Minister. But back to Mr. Steinway. So finally, I kept on calling him for 6 months and I never could get through to him. This was the time when people had secretaries. And, I then used the trick to call at 7:30 in the morning when the secretary wasn't there, but Mr. Steinway was. And he answered the phone and he said, Miss Johnson, did you believe me when my secretary said, I wasn't there. I was in a meeting. I was on the phone. And I said, yes. And he said, okay, we'll do this Dynaway Hour with you. Now, the moral of the story is not that I was persistent. That helps. But the moral of the story is that it never occurred to me that he did not want to speak with me. I believed in my product and in my ability to get that sale. And now that we have everything we need to make commercial success of Earth observation in the new era of space, not new space, the new era of space, and in the era of the Internet of Things, you have to believe in your product, make a good product, go and sell it. Thank you.